about 1953. I quit driving in 51, or in 52. 51 was my last year, and in 52 started announcing. I did that for quite a few years, but as stock cars phased in more, as more with stock cars. This particular picture here was at the De Pere Speedway, and that was a beautiful quarter mile. The promoter there, a fellow by the name of Milt Vanderhoevel, built the track and imported clay from Kentucky to make the surface, and he really knew how to prepare it. Landy was one of the outstanding, Landy Scott was one of the outstanding drivers at that track. This particular scene here is an accident. Jerry Wall spun, I T-boned him, and I guess the fellow number 27, Joe Baraney, piled into me. This picture here, it's just loose in here because it was used somewhere else. The interesting part of this picture is this fellow right here, just a young guy, probably 19, 20, probably not even really old enough to be in the pits. Later on became quite a star. When you get old, you can't think of names. Now I can't think of his name. We'll get to that later. But you'll notice that the tow car was a 1937 Ford.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
This is a fellow by the name of Wally Champion. Ran with Badger for about 3 years. Then switched over into stock cars, and later on connected with Jim Hurtubise, and was one of his pitmen at Indianapolis.
Is that right? I never realized that.
Yeah, Wally died about 3, 4 years
He was
ago.
from Waukesha, wasn't he?
Yes, Wally was from Waukesha. He was a good friend of your dad.
Yep, I remember Wally.
This is a picture of Slinger back in the old days. You'll notice that there were just boards nailed to tree stumps that had been sawed off flat to make a grandstand. And compare that with the Slinger today, which is one of the country's super speedways.
Right.
This is just a miscellaneous group of snapshots here.
Who was 35?
In this particular picture, Ray Erdman.
Oh, yeah, I remember that name.
Also, in these two pictures, was driving it that day. But he had his own car, this number 49. And it was interesting that Ray drove with a hand throttle. He'd had polio and didn't have very good use of his legs.
Oh, yeah.
So he drove with one hand and worked the throttle with the other. This is another shot at De Pere. Louis Frank is the flagman. It's Joe Schuster, Bill Redmond, who is also from Waukesha.
Yep, he's still alive.
And Joe Baraney. I guess a fellow by the name of Dusty Conlon.
Well, I remember he got paralyzed, didn't he?
Yes, Dusty went off the backstretch at De Pere, and his right front wheel tangled with the canvas that they had put over the fence so that people couldn't get a free look from the back of the track. And when he flipped over, it did some damage to his spine, and he was a paraplegic the rest of his life.
And who is this?
That's Al Fredenberg.
Oh, yeah.
That was not his own car. He was driving, I don't know if, I can't remember the track, somewhere in Illinois. Might have been Kankakee, I'm not sure.
Okay.
This is just a whole bunch of snapshots taken around the country, mostly pictures of my
That's
car.
your car there?
Mostly, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, probably wouldn't interest anybody but me. Just names of the towns that we raced at. I'll tell you one funny story about that, though. My brother-in-law, George Bethke, and his wife used to accompany us quite a bit. And we got in some little town. I don't know if it's in any of these pictures or not. But at any rate, I had been told that if you wanted to stay at the hotel there, you just went in, it was above a bar. And if the bar was closed, you just went in the side door, went upstairs and found a room that the door wasn't closed, and stayed the night. And when you came down in the morning, you paid the bartender. And we found a couple doors open. In the morning, asked my brother-in-law, well, how'd you sleep? He says, I didn't sleep all night. He says, I just couldn't, I was nervous with that door being unlocked. He said, there was no key. He says, I sat up all night.
And there I see you got Dorothy Moore, huh?
Yes. Yeah.
Harley Moore.
That's Harley Moore's wife.
Yeah.
Somewhere in here I should have a picture of that number 77.
Can I take it that? Oh, Sun Prairie in
This is Sun
1949.
Prairie, yeah.
That's what I remember it being.
Auto stall, the flag
Yeah.
on there, and of course here he is in a little closer photo. And these pictures were taken down in southern Indiana. That was at Sun Prairie in 1950. I was selling for Merlin Motors at that time. They kind of sponsored the car and painted it up.
You look slightly younger there.
Well, yes, I would
Good
think
looking guy.
probably about 45 years young. It makes a difference. Oh, these are some pictures taken in England of their version. This is another
Slinger.
picture of Slinger. Yeah, almost the same as that other.
Yeah, this one has been in the, I have one of these at home. And it's also the one that was used in Open Wheel.
Is that right?
Yeah, where they saluted them for, that's
Uh,
brainy there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Joe Barini.
Yeah.
He later quit driving and became the scorer.
Ah,
And that's a fellow by the Dwayne Albert. Dwayne became quite a good driver. In fact, he won in, I think it was 50. He won the season final 100 lapper at Sun Prairie.
now, did he always keep his name that, or?
Dwayne Albert?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
I know who you're referring
Dwayne Hansen is
You're
what I was
referring to Dwayne Hansen.
yeah.
Yeah. This is a picture of Mike Ledvinka, who later called himself Mike Ladd, flipped at a track at Luxembourg. It was a half mile. Broke his arm. And this little picture here shows the doctor examining his arm. And when he found out I'd taken that picture, he threatened to crack my head open if I gave it to anybody. And here's that Wally champion. This was at Fair Park in Milwaukee. Wally was driving hot rods in that Hurricane Hot Rod Association.
Oh,
Vince Granatelli ran.
Mm-hmm.
And
there he is rolling, huh?
flip, yeah. This is a book that Badger put out in 52. This is Vic Ellis. He was the champion in 52. And
Didn't he come out of Iowa or something?
Rockton, Illinois.
Rockton, Illinois.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
He was the champ that year. Al Fredenberg finished in second. Landy Scott finished in third. By that time, the number 17 had been sold to Lapley Chevrolet at Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And
There you are.
that's me and Vic Ellis with some trophy that he won.
Was he a school teacher or something, if I remember right? Or
No,
was that Horstmeyer or someone?
I don't think it was Horstmeyer.
Someone
He looked, and his
Okay.
mannerisms were a lot like Mr. Peepers, who was on television.
Mm-hmm.
You'd mistake the two if you saw them
That's
together.
right.
Here's a picture of all the 6 high point cars at the Prairie.
There's Lanny again, number
Yeah.
17.
Yeah.
Let's see, I was just going to ask who
Let's
the...
see. I think that's Dwayne Hansen. That's Joe Barini. That's Ray Erdman Sr. That's,
Beecher?
A.T. Breacher. And that's me with the microphone.
Oh, goodness.
There's a picture of the cars coming through the first turn at Sun Prairie.
Mm-hmm.
You notice the minimal protection
Yeah.
and all these people standing around.
And that building is still there, isn't it?
Yes. It's a dance hall upstairs. Yep. It's still in use. Yeah, here's a closer picture of the officials. It shows starter Otto Stahl here.
Mm-hmm. Now looking at it, I remember him.
Yeah.
I remember Beecher, he was from Waukesha.
Yes. He ran a
what?
hydraulic jack repair business.
Okay, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
This is Wallace Patsky.
Oh, yeah, from Racine.
Yeah, they were three
Patsky brothers.
Yeah.
Wasn't there Don?
Don and Wallace, and I can't think of the third one. He was a younger brother and didn't drive very much. But I thought he was the best of the three.
Yeah.
This was taken at De Pere the first night the track opened.
Wow.
That's Hill Ermer. He was one of the pioneers of Badger, one of the very earliest members, and continued up until a few years ago when he died as a secretary or something.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, that
And this
is
is
Don.
one of the other Patskys. That's Don.
Yeah. He had a more modern car
Yeah.
at that point. Yeah.
This is Johnny Dietz.
Oh, I remember Johnny.
John was a card. He was leading a race at Sun Prairie one time, and he spun out. He got out of the car, ran around to the front of it, and made believe he was cranking it. In telling about it doesn't sound very funny to see it. Another time, when they won a race, they were given a checkered flag to carry around the track, and when John came around, he didn't reach for the checkered flag. He reached down inside of the car, pulled out a long stick with a huge pair of women's bloomers on. That got a lot of applause. Crowd went wild.
Wasn't Johnny Dietz who Landy tangled with up in Darlington and flipped that time? I think that was Dietz.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that. Maybe.
I'll have to ask Landy when he comes in.
Yeah. Well, Dietz died, I would say. Oh, here the date is. Died in 91.
91.
Well, you know, we're all getting old. Our turns are coming. There's Harley Moore's car.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I remember it was white with red trim.
Right. I drove that one time. I came up to De Pere without my car. I don't know why. I suppose I'd been in an accident with it. And Harley had brought that car up, and by that time, that car was so outdated, it was ridiculous. And he asked me if I'd drive it. Well, I don't remember what I did at De Pere, but we took it to a half mile the next day. And he said, no, don't stay on the gas. He said, because I got quarter-mile gears, and you blow the engine on the half mile. So I thought, well, okay. And not understanding the noises that you hear in a 60, being used to that Studebaker, I stepped on it, and when I got about probably 3/4 of the way down the straightaway, I backed off to save the engine. I did that for a couple laps, and we come in, we'd pulled 6th fastest time. Because what he thought was too low was just about right for a half mile, but he wasn't used to winding out the engine. Well, here's a picture. Earl Simmons ran with us quite a bit. Very good driver. He and Dwayne Hanson had tangled, and I came through on the next lap, and they were just getting around. Probably, yeah, I guess it was the next lap. They were just getting out the red flag. They didn't get it in time to warn me, and I came down into the turn, here all that wreckage was laying there, and I hit him on the left front side and kind of knocked the front end off it for him. Not a nice thing to do.
No.
This is Frank Cater. This appeared in the journal when he died. That was just last year. He had a Buick-powered car that fellow by the name of Jigger Sorois won a 100-miler out at Fair Park with it. On the big old mile.
Art Stall.
Yeah, Art Stall was either from Pewaukee or Waukesha, I forget which.
I think Pewaukee. Now, who was from Oconomowoc?
Steinman.
That's it, Steinman.
Yeah.
Okay. Lancaster, huh?
Remember I was telling you about that hotel where you just walked up?
Yep.
Here it is here. Took this picture the next morning.
Reedsville, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, there's,
This happened out in Iowa. This Bob Johnson hit the fence and it tore up the tail, but also a piece of the board got into his chest, but they were able to take it out.
And that's up at Rice Lake, the one above that, huh?
Yes.
And Harry Winters?
Yeah, Harry Winters is the car on the outside. I'm on the inside, and I don't know who the ones are back there. I can't identify them. Oh, yeah.
Shows you how dusty it used to be.
Yeah, this was Schmidt, and that was Winters.
Shows you how dusty it used to
up
be
here
on some
you
of
can
those.
see dust. Oh, you know, that reminds me of a little story. Fritz Kuttner,
I remember
who was
Fritzy.
the father-in-law of Don Gorse and the grandfather of Dan Gorse, who's doing quite well today. At one of these old half miles, it was so dusty at first they thought they'd better call off the races. But Fritz says, well, I got this new white crash helmet, and he said, if you guys just follow me through the first turn, you'll be able to see that helmet. So everybody thought that was a pretty good idea. So Fritzy goes down into the turn, you know, the flagman drops the flag, and down they go. And something happened to Fritz's steering gear, and he went right out through the fence, followed by 5 other cars. This was a race at
Sun Prairie,
Sun Prairie, yeah.
Oh, Gordy Fry.
Yeah, this is...
There you are.
Yeah.
Fredenberg right behind you.
Yeah,
huh?
I think...
Billy Johnson, was that 44?
Yes.
And Miles had what, 15 or 1? 15?
In this picture here, he had the 15. Yeah.
Okay. There's Don Patsky
Yeah.
and Gordy Fry.
Yeah. I guess this was the handicap race.
Yeah, well, you had to be good to get into that.
Yeah. I generally, you know, I was probably what they called a stroker in those days. I never wound my engine as tight as it'd go because I was the guy that had to work on it. And I didn't have the time. I had a job. I sold cars. And back in those days, car selling was 5-day and 5-night a week and Saturdays besides. And you didn't have much time to work on the car. So I'd get that Studebaker running good, leave it alone. Just won't wind it too tight. There's a picture, Milius in that 15.
Okay.
That was later sold to Fredenberg. It became the Fredenberg car.
Oh,
He got
okay.
killed in it.
Yep.
At Sun Prairie.
Was that where it was in the backstretch or where?
Yes.
Okay.
The actually what happened, these Curtises had a huge windshield instead of a flared cowl, and that windshield cracked and cut his throat, and he bled to death before they got over to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a brief fling into stock cars at one time. My brother-in-law and I had an old 37 Ford that wouldn't get out of its own smoke. And a fellow by the name of Fraser, he was from Oconomowoc. He had some fast cars that Norm Nelson drove for him at one time.
Mm-hmm.
This is a picture of the car after it flipped. They didn't have roll bars in them then.
Nope,
All they had
sure
was a
didn't.
seat belt.
There's Billy Johnson.
Yeah, there's Billy in the number 44 when he was driving for Lang. He won a couple of championships.
Yes, he was Bob Lang from Sauk City, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
I do remember few times.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you remember Bradshaw.
Howard, was it?
Yeah,
Howie Bradshaw.
excellent driver.
Mm-hmm. Now, was that a Studebaker or what
Yes,
he had?
that
That's
was,
what I
that
thought.
was Landy Scott sold
Oh,
the car.
car,
Scott
okay.
sold it to him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, he outfoxed me one night for some reason or other. He was driving my car, and as I said, I always put a pretty high gear in it so I wouldn't strain the motor. And he caught onto that pretty fast. He went up in the outside groove and got himself a second in the feature. And if one of the other cars on the move over...
Now, what's this about Howard Bradshaw?
Bradshaw. Well, remember when we were at a racetrack and it was muddy in hell? We told everybody to get out there and dry the track off.
Yeah.
He rode around right up on the top and he never got any muddy on his car. And so when time trials were starting, I says, okay, Bradshaw, you qualify first. I remember that. Old Billy Woods. And then after a while, now they all got money. Now if you go out to Sun Prairie, you feel like a pauper if you don't have a big semi and about
Yeah.
7 cars.
A trailer with a machine
Trailer,
shop
yeah.
and 2 cars inside of it, living quarters. Oh, man.
Are these yours, Fisher? Or his?
No, they're
Pictures?
I haven't got a. You're gonna make a copy of that one.
All right.
I
what
got
can you
mine.
remember about you guys, about Chip Morris? I remember.
He
Chet
knew
Morris,
her quite well. I
Let me,
didn't.
wait, let me a couple of. Well, first of all, Chet Morris, if you busted a tire or anything, he'd take it off of his car and give it to you so you could run. Wouldn't he?
I say I didn't know him that well.
But Chet had here's one that you'll enjoy. Chet Morris had the Curtis Craft,
Mm-hmm.
and he had a Granatelli engine in it, remember? And he blew the engine, and Granatelli wanted, I think, $1,100 or $1,500 to fix it up. And I says, what are you worried about Granatelli? Christ, take it out by George. George will fix it. We took it out by your dad, and he fixed it up. And matter of fact, for the next 4 races, we ran first and second in every race.
There's
We
Landy
did too.
at the pier.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful picture. It's the only time I've ever seen a tire with that big a bulge in it.
Well, that's the way they used to take pictures years ago.
Yeah, there were nice pictures, really nice.
I'll go get my book.
Hey, you were younger.
I was old.
Look at the hair on that guy.
I didn't start racing until I was 27 years old, for Christ's sakes.
So you're what now? 77?
77.
No, this is stock cars. You probably aren't.
Oh yeah.
Where's
I
that one
remember
of you and me? There's a picture.
Yeah,
I
there-
got it.
We'll get to it here. Picture of our hero here.
When is that one?
Remember when we put that Studebaker V8
Oh,
in that
Christ.
car?
Have you got a picture of that?
Sure, you're bailing
Oh, I
out
got
there.
this, yeah. Burnt again.
Yep.
On my tape has got that in there.
Oh.
Burnt again.
And you had a V8 in there, huh?
We were going to blow the
Balls off everybody.
We were going to blow them away.
Sure.
The only thing
All he blew was the radiator.
I went and drove the 17 at the end of the season, and we put some guy in there that ran like a charm. But we never could get it to run. Remember? Here's one, you don't want this one on the tape either.
Well, we're just about at the end of here.
Here, take a
You got
picture
it.
of this before you.
I did. I was taking one. Yeah.
He's got
That's
that,
the
he's got that
17
on the tape.
after, except that we were so damn good. And but anyhow, it comes down in the last laps of the B feature. I keep getting this bang and get bang going into the turns. I'm getting whiplash. And all of a sudden, just as we come down from the checker, out around the outside, here comes a big smell of alcohol. I thought, what in the hell is that? And here this guy passing me on the outside and alcohol streaming out of the car like you wouldn't believe. He's damn lucky it didn't blow up.
I was soaking wet, I was coming.
Oh.
I forgot about that.
You could
Was
not.
that from tapping him in the end all the time?
I hope so.
So I remember now, and if any little spark, but I wasn't going to give up that race and let Bradshaw beat us.
No.
Never.
No
You I
way.
didn't care about, but Bradshaw.
This Joe Ballesteri, he got killed at Toronto in 1955 on Labor Day. This is not the car he was driving. The car he was driving was my old car.
There's the old man.
Yeah.
That's George Austin. There's there's the old 17.
Oh, be darned.
Who is this? You should tell who that is. George Austin. Yeah,
Oh, Schneeberg.
yeah.
Oh. You know-
Schneeberg is 33?
Yeah.
Did he drive with a cigar in his mouth all the time?
No,
or
that was
something?
Hill Ermer.
Hillary.
Oh, okay.
But there's the, see, there it is again.
Yeah.
But that's the way they used to take pictures.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that
right.
was-
But that's,
Look at the knobby tires on there, too.
there's your dad. Have you got this picture?
Yep, that I do have. That was up when he worked at the Kaiser Fraser Willis. In fact,
Will
I think
you-
in the background you can see
Can you
Willis.
remember when?
That was in the newspaper and everything.
Yeah. Can you remember when him and I, we were the officials at the soapbox
Soapbox
derby?
Derby.
No,
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh, boy.
There's the first 17.
Mhm.
That's the first 17. This is the one that this guy had me autograph.
Oh.
And right after this picture was taken, I flipped it, went back about 12 rows back, and he had this picture taken. This car is the car that Tony Bettenhausen at Duquesne, Illinois, when he caught on fire, you must have heard, and he was going like this, and nobody could, and he was starting to get out of the car.
Oh.
He was burning, but alcohol don't show no.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
he drove it in the lake. This is that car. But this has got the 17's motor, the 17 steering gear, the
Oh,
17
thank you,
rear end,
Coachy.
and everything else.
Well, here we got a little what goes with.
And that's when we advertised for the 5018 Club.
Yeah. Boy, that was sharp. That's almost like that one I got at
Yeah.
your Fond du
I
Lac.
should have put down, you
Now
know,
that's El San Prairie, isn't it?
no, I
yeah.
think this is in Iowa someplace. I
Okay.
couldn't swear to that, but I know a lot of them. But this is in that race that, remember I told you about that 100-lap race at Milwaukee?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, when they
That's,
didn't want to let you in?
Oh, great. He got killed,
Alturas?
Brennan?
Oh, Don Brennan?
Don Brennan. Look, see how he's looking? What the hell are you doing? see, yeah, that look? And that's, was one taken.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, we went to Rice Lake, and we were, there's more to this picture than, that's your dad. There's
And
more
there's
to-
you.
More than this picture than, Chet Morris is over here and said, what the hell's the matter, can't you do anything? And we're just cleaning I'm just cleaning my goggles and your dad's clean.
Cleaning out the radiator.
I think we had to run it all 3 heats to do anything. Oh, this is just a side shot. Yeah,
There's when you won the...
that's when I won the championship.
Yeah.
You know, they never gave any trophies. So I went and got the Bela Bar to give one in.
That's at Bela Bar.
Dorothy went out and picked this girl out to give. She didn't want to get a real good, so she got this young girl. I wonder if that girl, you know, wouldn't that be something?
If she was alive yet?
Well, yeah, if we could find out who else she
Yeah.
was. I don't
Yeah.
know how you, we could put a picture and say, who are you?
Yeah, who are you?
This Breacher. Oh, Breacher and I had our differences, but he was a nice guy.
Well, you know,
Mouse was a
You-
natural race driver.
He was. I can still remember my dad saying he's either gonna end up being one of the greatest drivers or he'll kill himself.
Well, he flipped one midget and he quit the midgets, remember?
yeah, went
He
in
quit
the
it right
stock.
away.
Because he drove for a while, never flipped.
Oh, he drove for a long time.
Yeah.
That,
That's a good shot.
yes,
Army
Dead.
must have took that. Huh?
dead.
Hmm.
This is after I start. You know that picture of Erfurt when he cracked up?
Mhm.
Yeah. This is taken at Plymouth. I started driving the car at Plymouth for him after Erfurt had smashed it all up.
Boy, I remember that.
He's still alive, Maloney. He's still alive.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What was this guy's name?
Down, yeah, say it.
Yeah.
Gotta ask me.
Took it right out of your mouth. I'll figure it.
See, your dad always believed in the old methods. And then he built the magneto.
Magneto.
We put a magneto on it. This is in Iowa. I should have put some of these guys down. But that's in Iowa. This is when Chet Morris 52, and mine, that's the number of that car that Curtis Scrap that he got, that, you know, I told you about buying, but we never materialized. Here we are. See all the beer cans underneath there?
Yeah.
We went here, and I know it wasn't much, but we got $35 a day, and we were there for 3 days.
Holy
But
mackerel.
we had a lot of fun. There's Vanderhoevel.
Oh, yeah.
He was on an exhibition.
Who's in the middle there?
It's some local driver from De
okay.
Pere or Green Bay.
Wasn't that Dave Silkman?
That's Wally Chapman.
Oh, yeah.
That's Kelly Peters.
Kelly
Oh.
Peters.
Right after this picture was taken, a couple of guys flipped it and went right over that wall. This was taken after I flipped at Soldiers Field. This kid is a big contractor in Green Bay right now. You can see
No
he
kidding.
hadn't
Yeah.
shined it all off yet. That's at, I think that,
Looks like Fond du Lac.
could be. This is when I drove that
Stock car.
the stock cars. Won 11 of the 12 races.
Was
It's a
that?
disgrace that I got. Remember when I drove the stock for Pete?
Miller there.
Oh.
And they called up, and I met him in Chicago. They paid all my transportation. I went down there, we talked. I stayed there one night, we talked the next day, and I wouldn't go along with it. But I was promised that I would be the Midwest representative of NASCAR. But first of all, I never thought NASCAR would ever make it. I thought it was just a flash in the pan. And I never thought, well, do you think union would have been good for race drivers?
No.
And I didn't either, and I told him to go to hell. That was a good mistake. I was
Okay,
really
Craig.
brilliant, wasn't I?
Well, you can't win them all.
You're right.
You're just proving you're human, you know.
Sure, but